Good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome to all of you joining us today. So, thank you for being part of this webinar titled Designing a Dairy Business That Works, Systems, People, and Numbers. So, traditionally, as you know, dairy farming has often been viewed as a production activity, focused mainly on animals, feeding, and also the routine activities. But today, the reality is very different. Dairy is no longer just farming. It's business that requires structure, discipline, and also informed decision making. So a successful dairy enterprise is built on three critical pillars, as we understand. So these are the system that ensure consistent and efficiency, and people who execute with skill and accountability, and the numbers that guide decisions and measure performances. So without these three key pillars, even the best resources may not deliver results. So today, we are fortunate to have a distinguished panel bringing international, national, and also commercial perspectives to this discussion. So we have Mr. Peter Bravo. He's one of our founding director of DairyNex, having a lot of experience globally and have been to Sri Lanka as well. So he will bring us sort of the perspective from the international and also mainly the Dutch the scenario. And we have Mr. Sumedha Bandara. He's a assistant general manager of National Livestock Development Board. Sumedha carries a lot of experience basically rearing exotic animals in Sri Lanka. So he has been many years in the NLDB farms where they rear Australian and New Zealand animals brought to Sri Lanka a few years ago. And also we have, fortunately, one of the dairy legendary here in Sri Lanka, Mr. Sarath Bandar, who has been able to, bring some really good, successful case studies, to show the Sri Lankan dairy industry, how it works. So then he's one of the best sort of, the dairy personnel in the country. He's a general manager of Ambirela Livestock Company. In addition to that, we have our DairyNex founding directors, Lizanne Oskam, our advisor, and also another advisor, Professor Janak Vidhanaraj. So with this panel, we will explore what it really takes to design a dairy business that is not only productive, but also sustainable and also profitable. So I encourage all of you to listen carefully, actively, and reflect on your own operations and ambitions and think about how these insights can be applied in practice. To start us off, it is important to understand how well developed dairy systems operate at global level. I would like to invite Peter Blavo to share his insights from the Netherlands, where dairy farming has evolved into a highly structured and efficient industry. Peter, it's over to you. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Nishan. Let me try to share there we are. Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Nishan, for this introduction, and welcome to everybody who is looking and watching and listening today. I will try in this 15 minutes approximately to explain how a dairy sector is set up, is developed. I do this from a background. I grew up on a dairy farm in the 1950s and 60s in the Netherlands with about 30 cows, which was at that time a reasonable farm, not anymore at this time. But we went through the stages of small, growing bigger and bigger. Subsequently, I went to study on an agriculture college and a business university and spent 8 years in the United States in agricultural equipment development And back in the Netherlands, I took over a dairy equipment company, milking machine company, Gascoigne Malot, and developed that into an international concern, which was active in Europe, in most European countries, in the Middle East, in China, in Korea, in Japan. And since 2016, when I had distantiated the company, and I was free to join advisory groups and became active in Sri Lanka and also in India in order to support the development of a dairy sector. And that's where we are at the moment. We're looking at Sri Lanka developing a dairy sector and how can you best do that, and that is not easy. I will take you through development in the Netherlands. Why do I do that? Because in my travels to Sri Lanka, I noticed that there is a lot of similarity to Sri Lanka sector and the Dutch dairy sector. Sri Lanka is a little bigger than the Netherlands, has 20 million people. The Netherlands has 18 million people, very densely populated and very scarce on land. So it requires high productivity on a very small piece of land. And the development in Sri Lanka could be similar to the development that has taken place in the Netherlands in the last 50 years. So this is what I will show. We'll go into some technicalities about the dairy setup, but mostly also how does a cow produce milk and how is that, how do you manage a farm in that context. So in order to show you how the development in the Netherlands has been. In the 1970s, we had about 60,000 dairy farms and 2.4 million cows in the Netherlands. In the 1970s, 80s, we had about 20,000 farms, so 40,000 less were built and old farms were replaced. That resulted in 2000 of 23,000 dairy farms, still with 2 million cows and still with 11.8 million tons of milk. And at the present time, we have about 14,000 dairy farms in the Netherlands with 1.5 million cows, and we produce 12 million tons of milk. What is the message? The message is that in 50 years, we have developed into a sector with 40% less cows, and we still have the same production as we had in 1970 with 2.4 million cows. Now the question is, how was this achieved and how has the sector become as professional as it is at the present time? The secret actually was that goals and objectives were set, education was developed on practical and academic levels, and major investments were made by the industry, by the government, and were committed all together. All coming down into a tri-dimensional system since the middle and late 20th century called in Dutch the OVO triple or the ERA. ERA stands for education, research, and advisory, research and education. Going hand in hand, and this has been the success of the Dutch dairy sector. You see on the pictures where we have a practical session in Sri Lanka a few years ago, taking down the know-how that was developed into the practical situation. In an example, in the 1920s, the Netherlands decided to reclaim land from the sea in order to meet the growing demand for food. Food security became a major issue after World War II. In the 1930s, the plan was ready to execute, and over 100,000 of acres of sea were reclaimed into the fertile land. And this is where I lived at that time and where the system was developed. The objective was to reclaim 100,000 acres from the sea, build 11 villages, dairy communities, settle 2,000 qualified farmers from the old land into the new land, and complete this project in 15 years. This is where it started in 1940s, and this is how it looked 15 years later in a developed land with prosperous dairy farms. Subsequently, in this same movement, about 250 acres of land were reclaimed additionally and transferred, of course, into fertile land. Now, this is what happened in the Netherlands, and Sri Lanka is different. But in Sri Lanka, a similar development could take place. And in our travels to Sri Lanka and discussions with the officials and with Yanak, etc., the idea was developed, which we call a dairy village. This is a real situation in the Netherlands, in the land that was reclaimed. Here you see a village which was built, and there you see around that village, you see the dairy farms grouped. So this is what we then call a dairy village. We have explained that further in the study Milk in Motion, which was made by Kandur, my company, in 2016-17. And by combining a number of family farms around a village, farmers can learn from each other, they can share machinery where applicable, and exploit milk collection centers to supply milk and milk products to the community, or sell the milk to a dairy processor. So it is not the individual farm that can be successful, it is the group of farms that can learn from each other and collectively set up a development, including milk collection. This is the real situation as it is today, and as you say, this was the situation in the 1940s. So that was the development in the Netherlands. This concept of a dairy hub or a dairy village could be applicable to the dairy sector in Sri Lanka as well. The family farm everywhere has formed the basis of development of a dairy sector anywhere else. Of course, there are major dairy farms also in Sri Lanka, Amboella, for instance, with 1,000 cows or more, but the real development of the sector has to take place through the family farm development. This is my real conviction, and I think that could be done in Sri Lanka as well. Now go to the housing. This is where I grew up, for instance, is the stanchion barn with a pipeline system, which in this country does not exist anymore hardly, but in other countries it does, like Germany and France, etc. It is fairly economical, it's fairly cheap. One man can handle at least 25 cows, up to 50 cows. The investment is fairly low and it is simple to build. This could be a system that could be used in Sri Lanka as well. Going on further to the larger farms, you go to the freestall concept. You see that here with a feed alley in the center. You could have a feed alley on the outside as well. Instead of in the center, milking is executed and done through the herringbone parlor. When they go bigger to the rotary parlor, here you see with several hundreds of cows possible. The herringbone could be a 2x4, a 2x6, a 2x8, which could grow with a farm easily, and then the investment could also be fairly limited. When I look at milk production, I say here one man can handle up to 100 cows, producing 600,000 liters of milk per annum. Those figures are based on a production of 6,000 liters of lactation per cow. Why is that? The present production in Sri Lanka is, of course, only about 5-6 liters per day, which is very low. In order to develop, we can think about 10,000 liters per lactation per cow, but I think that is unrealistic. So I based this figure and also my studies on 6,000 liters per lactation. And in the long term, as I said before, one man in this system could easily produce 1 million liters per annum. I think the farm of Lisanne in the Netherlands is exactly doing that, producing 1 million liters of milk with just over 100 cows. So it is a real example. Going further in the development, you see here on the right the milk robot, the robotic milking system, which is a common system in the Netherlands and in Western Europe. And gradually, when labor becomes more expensive, investment in a robotic milking system is certainly the way to go. But for the time being, Sri Lanka is not yet ready for that, not only because of the structure, but also because of the service system that is necessary. In other words, in this development, we should and can concentrate on a simple pipeline system, and when you grow bigger, into a freestall system, as you see here. This is the development that we should strive for and that can also be developed. Here you see a simple drawing and layout of a 125 cow farm, 4 rows, feed alley in the middle, and the young stock is housed in the same farm. The maternity is housed in the same farm. The machine room is housed in there. It's an all-in farm, very, very modern. And here you see how that is constructed from the top. This is also a system that could be an example in a smaller way also for Sri Lanka, and it can grow to several hundred cows if the sector and the farm develops. So I would say that this would be a start, and the next phase would be complex like this. And this is certainly possible in Sri Lanka as well. If you go back to the cow, Sri Lanka has about 670,000 cows, as we have seen before in the presentation of Professor Janak. Producing less than 5 liters a day is 1,500 liters per lactation. Now, that has to be improved. Sri Lanka could be self-sufficient in dairy production with about half the cows producing 6,000 liters. So instead of 670 cows, there could be about 300,000 cows, though 50% less cows, less pressure on the environment, less feed and forage requirement, which is very important for Sri Lanka, and more income per farm. And saving the country about some $300 million per annum in imports of dairy products. This could then be invested in a rural development program in order to develop the sector further. So the message is actually that more cows is not the solution. More production is the solution. So Sri Lanka could achieve their objectives by increasing the production to a normal 6,000 liter per cow lactation, which is not the very maximum, but very good, with 300 cows instead of with 600 cows. How can this be achieved? There are 4 major items. That is management and education, breeding, hygiene, and feeding. It sounds rather simple, but in order to manage that is not as simple as it looks. Management, there is a role for the academic and practical institutes, such as the University of Peradeniya, etc. They could be the driving force. Collaboration with, for instance, dairy industry and institutes, such as the National Dairy Development Board, SLAB, etc., is important. In other words, the collaboration between educational, practical institutes, the industry itself, and the government is very important. This is how the Dutch sector in the Netherlands developed. So government support, an example, the Ministry of Agriculture is vital, and theory and practice go together. This is a nice picture with the Dutch Dairy Days with Professor Janak explaining the situation in Sri Lanka to a Dutch audience in Sri Lanka. Then breeding. Of course, you need a good cow, to say it simply. About 10 years ago, Sri Lanka started to import thousands of Australian and New Zealand cows, and the successes were quite limited. The typical range breeds from Australia and New Zealand did not quite well adapt to the situation in Sri Lanka, and the management was also not available to manage these cows. My experience has been that the Holstein Friesian and the crossbreeds could do much better and are much better adapted to the situation with little land area in Sri Lanka. This is the Friesian Holstein, able to produce at least 10,000 liters, but in Sri Lanka they could produce at least 6,000 liters also, and then go on from there. An interesting concept is the crossbreed, the Holstein Jersey crossbreed, could possibly better adapt to the climatical conditions, and also the butterfat percentage would be a little higher than in the Holsteins. These two are quite good alternatives to the import of massive Australian and New Zealand cows. Then import of quality semen is of course effective, and an effective artificial insemination system is very important as well. It is existing in Sri Lanka. It could possibly be improved, but the basics are there. Then there is one important thing as well, and that is the lactation should be 300 days, which is a normal lactation, of course, in Europe, but also in the United States. In Sri Lanka, I noticed that especially in the rural areas, a lactation of 300 days is maybe an exception. Now, this is one thing to manage. A cow is able to produce milk in 300 days without any problem. So that is an attention point for the management and an objective. And then the intercalving time. Some cows have a calf every 2 years or every 2.5 years. It should be noted in the management and in the breeding that lactation should be 300 days and the intercalving time should be max 14 months. Then you can find the results up to 6,000 liters per lactation. It seems easy, but it is not, but it requires commitment and objectives. Then hygiene. Even in Europe and in the United States, this is a major item. Mastitis is a major problem and remains a major problem, and needs to be controlled. I noticed this here is in Sri Lanka on a farm that inside the rubber here there is a lot of bacteria. Simple cleaning every day to prevent cross contamination of mastitis is a very important thing. The cost of mastitis, even in Europe and the United States, is still massive, and the control is, of course, very important. This is what you don't want to see. Cows in dirt, in manure, in their own manure, laying down, etc. It is not really possible to have a hygienic system and to control mastitis, for instance, and infections, also hoof infections, in this situation. This is a picture was also taken in Sri Lanka, where it was fairly clean. It is clean here. The cows are more happy. So it is all very well possible, but it requires very much attention. Paying for somatic cell count is an important part, not only for protein and butterfat, but also for somatic cell count. And somatic cell count is a result of hygiene. So those are attention points that can lead to a very healthy and productive farm. Then, of course, the feeding. And in my travels through Sri Lanka, I've seen quite a lot, good and bad. About 70% of the productivity of a cow is feed. So it's that simple. Elephant grass, there you go, and the like, fills the stomach of the cow, but does not provide the energy, but only for 5 to 8 liters of milk per day. compensating that with concentrates is expensive. But Sri Lanka can produce excellent corn silage and grasses. Know-how for forest production must therefore be developed. I was there in Mayangana together with our former colleague Jan Jeronimus. Beautiful corn silage here is harvested. This is at Umbrella Farms where the corn silage was conserved in plastic rolls, in plastic bales, and that can result in consistently feeding from the big bags corn silage to the cows. So it is very well possible, I have seen it, you have seen it also, to produce quality corn silage and also grasses in Sri Lanka. It just needs to be done. Now this is a trench silo. This is in the Netherlands, where for the winter, because we have 5 months, 4 or 5 months of winter, we need to conserve a lot of feed. And this is haylage, grasses, pre-dried grasses in a trench silo. Also, that is a good possibility for Sri Lanka, although for transport, etc., I think that the bales, like you see here, is probably a better alternative, seeing the infrastructure in Sri Lanka. So that is actually where it comes down to those 4 items, as I said before: management and education, breeding, hygiene, and feeding. Those are the main parts in the book of a dairy farmer that can lead to a success. Now, the business case. It is, of course, nice on paper, but in practice it is different. I think it would be interesting to make a financial and technical model of a Sri Lanka dairy farm, to make it visible and to recommend this model of a dairy farm, for instance, 25 to 50 and 75 to 100 cows as a business case. That should contain the technical aspects, investment, revenues, operating cost, and financial results, including cash flows, return on investment, and return on equity. I think the National Dairy Development Board, the University of Peradeniya, SLAP, could be instrumental in setting up those models, so it's a leading part for the farmer to go by. Examples of such models are given in the study Milk in Motion, which Kandur, my company, made in 2016 and 17, which makes quite clear what is required financially, technically, what are the returns and what are the cash flows. So this could possibly develop, this model, yes, I know. This model could possibly develop as a joint venture between Sri Lanka and the Netherlands, involving the partners of the Dairy Training Center, of DairyNex, all together, and I would find it quite a challenge. This is the message. Building a national dairy sector requires an integrated approach in which public and private sector work hand in hand to achieve their objectives, and major investments in equipment, technology, know-how, and training must be an integral part to achieve these ambitious goals. Now I show you a little bit of a very short video that we made for Sri Lanka a number of years ago. It's only about 3 minutes.
The main ambition of the Sri Lankan dairy industry is to become self-sufficient. In 1940, the Netherlands was faced with a similar challenge: to build 1,500 family farms on new land. We made the Noordoostpolder and we stimulated families to go here and become farmers on this very fertile land.
In this area, 70 years ago, there was nothing. There was water. Now there are 1,500 farms, of which a large part dairy farms, and this is what Sri Lanka has to do also: develop a dairy farming sector.
The Netherlands is actually second largest agricultural exporter next to the US. A great achievement for such a small country.
At the moment, we are producing with 1 man
an average of 100 cows and an average of 1 million liters of milk per farm.
A small country like the Netherlands can achieve such a result because there are three important factors. One, we have a very good education and agricultural research. The second is that we have a highly qualified dairy industry, and the third is a government policy. But most important is that the three factors are working together, and that defines our success, I think.
Developing a sector means that learning has to be done. This resulted in the development of the EAR system, so that the know-how that is developed in the universities, for instance, will trickle down through the system to the dairy farmer who can use it. Like in Sri Lanka, family farming in the Netherlands has been the backbone of the dairy industry. By developing family farms, you also develop the rural sector and the economy. We have developed a chain approach in the Netherlands, which means that we go from grass, the feed, through the milking, through the processing, to the cheese and the butter. And this is exactly what this group, Sri Lanka Dutch Dairy Solutions, can do in Sri Lanka. We have developed a concept of a dairy village or dairy hub, which means that we do not build only one farm, but we build groups of farms, like 25 or 30, that can share the know-how, can share the investment, can share the equipment, so that the investment for each farmer is lower and the development of know-how is more effective. The benefit for Sri Lanka is that they, in the long term, will achieve their ambition to become self-sufficient and do not have to import hundreds of millions of dollars of milk powder anymore, which can then be invested in the development of the dairy sector.
The Netherlands should be the ideal partner for Sri Lanka to develop their dairy industry, because we also have a family-based dairy farms. We can give knowledge, we can give advice, and we also used to work together, not only in our country, but also around the world.
We are constantly developing, and we are able to share this with Sri Lanka. This may mean that the developments of Sri Lanka can go faster than we have done. We have all the aspects that are necessary to develop a dairy farm and a dairy sector.
Together, we can unlock the immense dairy potential of Sri Lanka.
Okay, thank you very much, Peter. So
That
it's
is the closing statement. This is what we are all doing it for. Milk
Yeah.
makes a healthy country, and you see school milk, for instance. So I thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to working with you on a further development of the sector. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. It's amazing to hear from you in case of Sri Lanka, that Sri Lanka can go for self-sufficient while reducing the number of animals by 50%, and also saving around $350 million US annually. So it's amazing how these new systems, knowledge, and the scientific based farming can bring a sort of the difference into the sector. So thank you very much. Of course, I have two questions to you from Professor Janak. I will come to the questions after listening to the other two presenters as well. So with this, let me invite Mr. Sumedha Bantara to share his views on how people and institutional factors influence the development of the dairy business in Sri Lanka. Sumedha, it's over to you.
It is it's quite simple. In short, I think it is important to establish objectives. What do we want? And consistency. In other words, establish objectives, not change every day, but consistency. Then secondly,
Peter?
Yeah,
we'll come to the questions at the end.
Pardon?
We'll come to the questions at the end. Can you hear me?
I don't get you what you're saying.
We'll come to the questions at the end of the webinar. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I
Just
thought you wanted to have the questions now.
no.
Okay, no.
I'm sorry for the
That's fine.
miscommunication. Yeah. So
Okay.
let's proceed with Sumedh. Sumedh, it's over to you.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you, Nishan, and thank you, everyone. Now I'm trying to share my screen.
Yeah. Let's go ahead. We can see the screen, Sumedh.
Right, everyone. And from the beginning, Peter Blau has drove our attention in basic concept in dairy farming business, which can be applied in a Sri Lankan context. But in my presentation, I would like to draw your attention a little bit broader, because in a country like Sri Lanka, starting with the development of poultry, and when it comes to a sustainable level, then the dairy is coming. So now it's becoming a new business for new learners, new job seekers, new entrepreneurs, and new everyone who's interested in dairy. So I like to give a brief idea about the global context of dairy industry. So at the moment, it's a $1 trillion business, and we are hoping that it will develop to 1.5 trillion business in 2023. As a dairy foods, it's already come to 1.06 trillion, and it will develop up to 2 trillion business within next 5 to 6 years. So when you discuss about building a sustainable daily enterprises, we are having three major issues we have to put our attention and put our controls, put our ideas on this. One is the system or the framework. Then a second part is coming a right manpower. And third is the reliable data, the information or the statistic to make these dairy business or the dairy enterprises into a sustainable level. In talking about system framework, we have to standardize the compliances and continuous improvement in the industry. Then in the second part, as it comes, right, to find proper people or right people or the manpower into the business role, where it drive you to the better performance and data and information and everything. So when the human labor is becoming a little bit scarce, so people have to move to a different line in the dairy sector. So throughout the whole period, so the FOA shows that the annual world milk food requirement is increasing 13%, and the industry is going some around 1.8% per annum. That means there's a huge potential on dairy sector around the world. If you see the global context, the milk production is now it's pioneered by the South Asian. It's that means somewhere around 30%. Then the European Union is coming next, and the Oceania, where the Australia and New Zealand is located, they are coming somewhere around less than 4% of the total share of milk. When the things are coming much sophisticated, much complicated, and the new problems are coming, right? When the scarcity is of a person or the skilled people, we have to move for some automated or the mechanical devices where we call it robotics, right? AI tools, milking robots, and at the same time, we have to have the people who can handle these technologies and equipments. When it a business, margins are becoming very tight now. Right? Earlier, you can have a little bit more profit. Now, we can see the people of number of dairy farms are getting less, and the number of milking cows is almost the same. But production has to be going up, and the margins has to be very tight, because otherwise you can't make profits. So, to touch these margins, we have to make standard procedures, and we have to follow these key performance indicators to get the best production performances. And when it comes to a environmental concern, right, other factors are coming, how your methane is there, how your manure is going to be concerned. All these things are coming when it comes to a industrial level. So I like to draw this attention, right? When you start it smaller, or whether it's becoming a medium, right? Now it has to be come to a commercialized level where you have to make more profit. So then I'll go. I'm having too much of a slide, but I will try to go a little bit faster, right? In the industry, the challenges, we are having another 3 challenges. That is, when we are talking about Sri Lankan system, actually in dairy, we don't have not introduced a proper system. So we are having a problem with not having of standard of procedures, which has been written or verified, right? In milking, feeding, calf rearing, feed preservation, and all the other management. So the system has to be implemented to make it up, right? And in the industry, it's getting some issues just because of a weak control of biosecurity, worker safety, manual handling, right? And the continuous monitor on a self-sustained dairy business. So the control is becoming low when there's a little bit lack of system or no system, right? Then the challenging part is coming with people. You can't be 100% automated or robotic. You have to be engaged with people when it comes with dairy. It's dealing with animal. So the challenge is to find best people, right? And in the moment, right, hiring people from different places, because the family member in Europe, we have seen that most of the dairies are running with family member. Now, when it's coming to less number of family members, so we are having insufficient of family labor, so we have to go for hiring labor. So that's becoming a new trend and new issues in dairy sector. So in Sri Lankan context, people are searching for jobs, searching for new venture, right? And even in the Sri Lankan text, we are having difficulty to find a proper person for proper job. So that will be the next challenging factor to adapt these new generation to workforce structure and retention there with different kind of strategies. So that was the second part. Then there will be the third one. That means insufficient data or the informations, right? Or lack of single source or the reliable data to make decisions, right? If you don't have any reliable data with you, so there will be difficulties in making schedules to make much better profits. So basically, if you think about income over feed cost, or the feed efficiency, or the milk quality, something like summer textile counts, and the human and animal relationships, the basic cost and everything. So that's coming with another significant role where the dairy is getting a challenge, and we have to develop an approach to fulfill these gaps. So in one side, there's a huge demand is coming. In other side, there's some scarcity is coming without system, without proper trained people, and lack of data and information to make a proper decision. And so the same, so we can do partially automation, and we can introduce some technology or robotic parts, or some what you call is the internet thing, right? Artificial intelligence onto the dairy sector, but the main factor is also becoming a part of the business is human impact. So this is going to be built with three major pillars when you talk about the industry. So part one will be the building the system, and the part two will be the finding right people, or the skillful people to the industry, and part three would be the decision making to make these industry sustainable, right? So even in Sri Lanka, so now the new dairy companies are coming into the moving, or people are like to come into the industry. So there's a big gap for the skillful people, and we need institutions like universities, the dairy training centers, so where the DairyNex is coming, right? We have to find the people who are having the touch, and to make these people into a rightful people, which can fill the gap in the industry where the labor shortages or the skill full gap, right? So standard work is going with animal health, performing and monitoring, and feed management. Better part is coming with financial planning, and the final products with coming with milk quality and waste management. So these are the basics things I'm going to talk about. So the standard procedures and KPIs, and another factor is coming with that, we call it RACI, that means responsibility, accountability, consulted, and informed. So the people have to be very concerned or the trained with these identical facts, which is really guiding the industry into a profitable venture. So where the inputs are coming, and where the with that inputs make these the productivity or the production, and where the production is going to make do the processing, and to make these products with quality aspects, and which can be reach the market with the concern of all the high quality and the better prices. So when it comes to full circle, is going to be a profitable venture. So when you're planning in a dairy venture or dairy business, so we have to put these concern on all these factors where your business is running into a profitable venture. And another thing is coming that workforce crisis or the workforce system. When it comes to a interesting or these well-paid business, so people are getting attractive, and people are get to trained or get to exposed to the systems, and then there will be a gap filling part. So if the potential is developing all over the world or the country, so we have to train the new guys to fulfill that gap, and we have to have a plan to hire these people and hire the best ones, and to keep them in the industry as much as possible continuously, because we have to make it continuously run. So I'm Nishan, I'm going like to go a little bit deeper into these the train guys, right? I think Peter has been explaining a little bit more with these planning, designing, and how to get implemented in the dairy sector. So I like to put more attention on how to fill the gap with the resource people. So first we have to attract the people to the industry, and we have to train them, and we have to show them that there's a retention part. So they have to have a pathway, a career ladder, right? Work with safety and earning a little bit more with seeking jobs. Sometimes as an entrepreneur, can be in both way, right? And implementing new artificial intelligence monitoring system with the improved or the trained guys, and maintaining good governance with the good data and information to make right decisions in a better appropriate time. And so Nishan, at last, so when it comes to a sustainable dairy system, right? So we call it that ESG. That means it should be environmental friendly, with social ethics, and with a good governance, where we should fulfill the food demand in the world, and we have to have a impact on job market and the industry, which can make more profitable line with these major factors. So Sri Lanka is becoming a place where we can train more people to fulfill that gap, which is developing in oceanic areas and some part of the world. Now that dairy sector is booming very fast. So this will be a very nice place to make that opportunity to take as a challenge and make it up. So when people are coming into industry as newcomers or the job seekers or the entrepreneurs, right? So when I'm talking about as a new intern, so the first 30 days will be going to mesh these people, a person or the worker to the new environment. So he's learning and he's diagnosing the environmental situation, and within next 30 to 60 days, he will build and train with the setup. And then in the third phase, within 6 to 90 days, so he will contribute his effort and measures or the workforce into the system. So we have to keep it nicely planned to how to give a baseline to the industry, how to come into the industry, how to be in the industry, so how to sustain in the industry. And to make it up, so we have to make a standard of procedures to develop capabilities. And at the end of the part is making it return, the rate of returns. So that means making a profits. So that was my part, Nishan. I think we have some ideas. So
Sumedha, thank you.
It's time to make a good dairy industry or build a dairy empire, right? It can be a different scale, right? But they are having a huge potential. So that would be like that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sumedha, for the sort of, presentation with more scientific facts and figures. I'm sure, I'm finding it very interesting. Of course, we have a couple of questions, but we can come to the questions, at the end. Now, I think it's time for us to, move to the panel discussion. We have Mr. Sarath Bandara joining with us from Ambevela Dairy Farm. So thank you very much, Sarath, for joining with us. So I think to understand how these concepts come together in practice, I would like to invite you to share your experience from a large-scale commercial operations at Ambevela Dairy. So my first question to you, Sarath, basically with regard to the numbers. In a commercial dairy operation like Ambevela, what are the most important numbers you monitor daily or weekly to ensure the business stays on track? So this is on numbers, Sarath. Sarat, are you still with us? Hello?
Sorry, there are some connectivity problems. I'm
Oh,
sorry
no
that
problem.
I'm joining
Yeah, please go ahead. I
while
think
traveling.
you heard my question, right?
Well, of course, you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Well, not just started to hear you now. I went through all your presentations of
Oh,
Sumedha and all that. All that was heard
sure.
by me, and then
My question was, Sarat, in a commercial, the dairy operations like Ambevele, what are the most important numbers you monitor daily or weekly to ensure the business stays on track?
well, actually, the practical situation now in Ambedkar, I went to all, I mean, listening to all Peter Blau and then Sumedha's presentations. And you probably where it is.
I think the line is breaking, Sarat.
Of farm station, cow.
There's I think, problem with the connection. I don't know whether others can hear you clearly. Peter, can you hear him clearly? Do you?
I can hear him, but not clearly.
Not clearly, right? Yeah, I think,
It's
there's
a
a
little bit
problem with
broken
the
line.
broken
Yeah.
line, Sarat. Maybe, Sarat, I suggest, when you get to a place where with bit of a strong signals, please feel free to speak. And then, until then, I can proceed with the other question to the other two panel members. Will that be all right, Sarah? Hello?
Mhm.
He's on his way. He's traveling, I think. Maybe, something wrong with the signals then. Anyway,
Yeah, so we can.
let's proceed. Let's proceed. So then maybe I start with the questions posted in the chat option. Peter, Professor Janak, he had two questions to you. The first one is, why has the dairy village concept been highly successful in the Netherlands, while similar initiatives in Sri Lanka have not achieved comparable outcomes? And what key socio-economic, institutional, and the technological factors explain this disparity? Because you said context in Sri Lanka and the Netherlands is almost like, I can't say similar, but it's based on family farms and so on. But here, this dairy village concept is not been proven success here. Do you have any thoughts on this, Peter?
Yeah. Shall I answer your question now?
Yeah, of
Okay.
course.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the most the three important things is in answering your question, key farm systems ensuring consistency, productivity, and efficiency. One, as I said before in my presentation, is set objectives and follow these objectives consistently. every week, every day, and secondly, have a system that can report what you are doing, actually. That has been mentioned before as well. Secondly, there is a simple thing, provide permanent feed and water availability. Not twice a day or 3 times a day, but permanent feed and water availability. And that will further and promote the production, the milk production of the cow. And third important thing in Sri Lanka is the climate in the barn. As you saw, several barn systems, but the climate, of course, is not conducive to cooling, etc. So providing a climate in the barn through ventilation, there are very professional systems, and mistifying whenever necessary is important. So set objectives, follow those objectives consistently, have a good reporting system to yourself, but also to others, provide permanent feed and water to all the animals, and make sure that there is a barn climate that is conducive to comfortable living of the animals. That's what I would like to say on that part.
Good. The other question, Peter, is again from Professor Janak. This is about the access to improved forage, seed and planting materials. In UK, it seems it's very efficient or effective in the context of Netherlands, but in Sri Lanka, we sometimes constrained by regulatory and quarantine requirements. So how does this affect dairy sector development?
It affects the dairy sector development in a negative way because there is not really stability and a structure. And if a farmer, small farmer, bigger farmer, want to invest and modernize his system and the system grow, he needs a stable future. He needs security so that he can invest for the long term. That is something that Sri Lanka can provide in a system through the dairy industry, dairy processing industry, to provide a longer term security for farmers to invest. Then, of course, labor efficiency is a very important point. I saw in the former presentation that there is also mentioned the development towards robotics. Well, my opinion is that a robotic system is not efficient in Sri Lanka and is not the time to do that. One, labor is still relatively economical, relatively cheap. The system requires intensive 24/7 service and attention, which is not available in the system. And the cows are probably not yet ready for such a system because you need uniform cows, uniform udders for a robotic system. So my view is keep it as simple as possible in a pipeline system, in a small herringbone system where you can milk hygienically and the investment is not too high and the attention, the service is not a major point as it is in a robotic system. An important part, as I said already before, is the daily report and daily management per cow. Secondly, a strict cull rate. It is hardly ever mentioned, but it is necessary to every year to release or select the cows that are not performing well and add a new replacement every year of young stock. And that is at approximately 20% per year or 25% per year of the herd should be replaced, and the lesser producing animals should be sold, and the younger animals should come in very consistently to do that in order to keep your herd efficiently producing. And then, as I said, very simple, the 300-day lactation per cow. If a cow only produces milk for 200 days, he will never reach a required production. So this is also an important part to pay attention to and will increase and monitor the profitability of the farm.
Yeah. Thank you, Peter, for the well detailed answer. Maybe let me check with Sarath again. Sarath, are you in a position to join with us? I'm not sure with the signal status right now.
Yeah. If you can hear me, yes.
Yeah, of course. Now we can
Otherwise,
hear you. Now we can hear you. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm on the move now.
Okay.
Anyway, so you can repeat what you wanted to.
Sure. Actually, my question was now in this webinar we have been talking about importance of numbers, especially for the informed decision making and the data driven decisions or the evidence based decisions. We can say in many ways. So in a company like Ambevela, one of the biggest company in Sri Lanka. So what are the most important numbers you monitor daily or weekly to ensure the business stays on track, Sarah? That was my question.
Yeah. Thank you. I think. Well, of course, I was listening to. Though I was not clear. I could listen to what Mr. Peter Blau was explaining answering about the questions that you made. And then it is exactly the same lines that we also follow. And we are always you know that our system is a computerized management system in our umbrella farms. It is totally data driven and all precision management system. So everything is worked out in the every day we check for our feed conversions and then the feeding tables and the push outs, and then and also there are a lot of things that we always maintain a very good stock of feed so that the animals get a very consistent feed right throughout the year, so that we work out in advance at least. So we, for instance, that we are keeping something like about 6 months stock of feed with us. Like if the silages are there, so we monitor that daily. When it is over there, we are getting more corn for the silage, and there's a lot of ordering, and because it is a very big farm, so there's a large amount of work like that. We go behind the milk production every day, and then and as we said that the culling of the animals, we don't keep any excess baggage, you see. So if there's any unproductive animals, we immediately take them out, so that always our percentage of cows in milk is say in between 80 to 85% in our farms. So in that way, we are keeping it very efficient. And the feed efficiency is somewhere around 1.4. We are working to bring it up to about 1.6. So these are things that we daily monitor.
Good, Sarath. I think so. You clearly mentioned things that they collect daily, weekly, and sometimes monthly basis as well. So my next question is basically the level of influence of these numbers on your management decisions making. I'm sure as the general manager, it is one of the central role of you to the control cost and also the improving productivity. So how these numbers influence your management decisions, Sarath?
Well, of course, as I was telling that every day there are discussions. If the productions, productions are dropping or something like that, we go deep into our figures to see where we have gone wrong. And also, you see, since it is a very precision management system, all our what you call the feed analysis are all updated. In fact, sometimes it is not possible in Sri Lanka to get the right tests done, but we do it in advance with the help of external laboratories and all that. And then we discuss with the nutritionists also very closely, so that if there's anything wrong with a new feed ingredient, we try to keep it consistent, but in our control. So in that case, we always keep a close contact with the nutrition. We discuss and we do the changes in our feed formulation for that. So for that, all the information in the morning comes to me, and then we discuss. We also have another consultant in our farm, and then we with the top group we always have a discussion every day. To decide what we are going to do for that day. Meanwhile, we keep always everything in stock. So that also has to be followed up. All the information from the stores are coming to me regarding the stocks of items. In Sri Lanka, when we do a large farm like this, everything is scarce. Like you have to all these spare parts and everything for the machines that we use has to be imported. So it takes time. So therefore, we have to keep emergency spares and stuff like that. So that has to also be monitored every day to see whether we have enough stuff and things like that. So weekly we go through the feed registers, as Mr. Peter Blau said. It is exactly like 70% of the total cost of our production is 70% of it is feed. And therefore, we always go very closely, monitor about the feed conversion rates. So we get the reports every day. Coming from the farms, and then we compare it with our previous records, and then we also discuss all the top management. We discuss together to see how we can improve it, and whether if there's a drop, what we have to take as remedial actions.
Good, Sarath. Thank you so much for sharing your the management experience. I have actually seen what you do there at Ambevela by myself many times. So before I let you go, Sarath, my final question: do you have?
Nishan, could I interrupt for a second?
Yeah, sure, please.
Could I take this opportunity to say hello to Mr. Bandara? I was on the farm, and I met him in 2019. I still remember him. And so I have to say that my cousin Hans Blau was several years busy on the New Zealand farm, knows you very well also.
Yes.
So
we are continuing with the
nice to talk to you again, Mr. Bandara. Thank you.
You are doing here. Since you came in 2009, we have a very modern facility there.
Okay.
Very modern. You can compare it with Netherlands also, no doubt. And then,
thank you. Okay.
So with that, we have made a lot of progress.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. We have seen this at Ambevela Farm, Sarath. So before I let you go, so my final question, Sarath, there are so many new entrepreneurs into the dairy industry. So do you have any sort of the single advice you can say within like a minute? What are the most important things when it comes to the systems, the numbers, and the the data-driven decisions, and also the people. Do you have some sort of an advice for the young entrepreneurs or the newcomers into this industry, Sarath?
Yes. Well, of course, I must tell you that while I am the GM of Ambevela Farms, I am the president of the Large Dairy Farm Association. We always try to encourage new entrepreneurs and new farmers to come to commercial level of farming. Am I clear?
Yeah, of course we can hear you.
Yeah. So farming. So what we say, I always tell that is that in Sri Lanka we Ambevela has showed that we can go to the best levels of the farming, dairy farming. So it is possible. I mean, it is possible. I mean, it is financially viable. And then, but you have to do it very carefully, and then, very good planning is needed, and then careful monitoring, and you have to be informative about your data daily. I mean, to keep to see where you stand. You don't just doing the business. You won't know whether financially you are at a better level. This thing, or at the end of the month, you will find that you are at a loss. So it should not happen, because before that, we should be able to see where we are going wrong. So there are certain parameters that we follow. Those has to be closely monitored, and then, for very good planning and persistence and the consistency. Everything has to be very consistent in dairy farming. So if people who are, who are coming new into the industry should know these things and plan themselves very well, and face it. I mean, it is possible and it is profitable even in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has a very good milk price at the moment, and it is possible.
Yes, of course, Sarath, it is definitely possible in Sri Lanka. We have the good conditions. It's basically the management is the issue. But since you have already proven that it is possible, I'm sure, others can do the same. So thank you so much, Sarath, for joining with us on your way home after a long day. It's good to have you, Sarath. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you, too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So before I conclude the webinar, I think we have so many questions, but I have one last question from Professor Janak. Maybe I forward this question to Sumed. How does the weak public-private partnerships in Sri Lanka compare to well-integrated systems in the Netherlands? High in the dairy sector developments in Sri Lanka. Maybe Peter, you also can, this is Sumedha in this question. Sumedha?
Thank you, Nishan. So I think that extensive model to semi-extensive, and now it's becoming more intensive method. So the government is the only institution who's having much land, and for general farmers, the land extent is becoming more crucial and limited. So we have to change the strategies and concept of dairy farming to shift the management system where we make plans to that. But still, there are some gaps between these government parts and the entrepreneur parts. Just because of having lack of a proper information and data to make good decisions of investing dairy sector. I think that was the first thing. And in other hand, releasing lands in for dairy sector is becoming another crucial factor. Some parts of the government-owned land is restricted by these wildlife entities, and some government cultivation lands likewise. And still, just because of a lack of what you call it a proper system, so still it's considered as with low profit venture. Now, the Sarath said that now it's becoming more what do you call it, profitable venture with new prices, and the market demand is going there. I think it will give a good a future, a good trend in future to make these things up to a better platform.
Thank you, Sumedha. Maybe with some last words from Peter, we can wrap the webinar. Peter, what do you think about these PP partnerships? I think you have seen here in Sri Lanka, it's not really working well. So how do you see this thing is basically hindering the dairy sector development?
Yeah, it's a good question, Nishan, definitely. But I think that if this concept, this objective is viable, then it requires the involvement of the government, the institutions, the university. So at the moment, those institutions exist, but there is not a really structured cooperation to achieve those goals. And I think that if it was, would it be at all possible that DairyNex, Janak, could possibly initiate a discussion with the institutions and the government to develop a idea, a concept, and then agree on a concept and then execute it. And it doesn't have to be big. It could be in the form of this dairy village in whatever form, but you talk about 25 farms. I would say with those capable institutions, pick this up, put it on paper so that it's visible, and then try and execute it. And it would be a beautiful example for Sri Lanka to develop the dairy sector. So it starts with somebody, like always, to take the initiative and sound out with the organizations that I mentioned to see whether there is a fertile ground to develop this concept. That I would be remember. Again, somebody needs to start the car.
Yes, this definitely it has to start somewhere, Peter. So thank you very much for your very wise words. So as we wrap up today's session, one key message clearly stands out. That is, a successful dairy business does not happen by chance. So it is designed through the right system, the right people, and also the right use of numbers. So at DairyNex, so this is exactly the philosophy behind our programs. So our courses are designed not just to teach dairy farming, but also to help individuals think, plan, and manage dairy as a professional enterprise. So whether you are starting out or managing operations or aiming for leadership roles in the industry, so DairyNex courses are basically they cater all these requirement. So if today's discussion has given you new perspectives, so we invite you to take the next steps in your journey with DairyNex. So thank you once again to our speakers and also the participants, Professor Janak, and also our founding advisor Lizani, also to be in there with us. We look forward to seeing you in our upcoming sessions. So thank you very much.